So this is my tour, and I'm just going to quickly go through it. Vancouver, Seattle, Los Angeles, Denver and Boulder, New York, Washington, Atlanta, Houston, and some quick images. Flying up there is pretty spectacular. That whole coastline's amazing, but when you see Mount Shasta and Crater Lake, when Sam and I looked out the window on that, we just couldn't believe it. Sam's the photographer on a lot of this. Vancouver, we started there because this book was actually born in Vancouver at the Simon Fraser University, and they still have the best TODs, the best transit-oriented developments. This is Roman Trubka's small shack. We have Roman working with us. We still can't quite work out why he's here and not there, but it is an amazing place, Whistler. And Roman lived there for a couple of years running an eco-trekking business, and we were given his shack for the weekend, which was quite remarkable, and Sam did amazing things out on the ski runs, and we watched. But it is sheer magic and absolutely beautiful place, and a wonderful thing for us to go from 110 degrees Fahrenheit to a temperature like this, but it was, there are certainly some beautiful places. I did a presentation there, and then we went to Seattle and began the whole process of working with the city and PB. Seattle describes itself as a green city. It even has eco-friendly stripping. Not quite sure what that is. And it is this Mayor Nichols began the climate change, Mayors for Climate Change, which is spread all around the world, and most Australian mayors have signed off to it. And he's written on the back of our book. We had a big meeting. This is about half an hour before it began. It was absolutely packed out, and there is a lot of interest in our book over there. Just as an aside, this is one of Sam's great pictures. This is the Needle, and it's an icon in Seattle. Sam and Jan decided to go up there, and up on the top he got drawn into a reality television show where this idiot here had to be, his job was to go out and find some flags positioned on the top of this thing. He was in complete fear, of course. He was on a leash, but Sam was part of the audience and had to sign something to say, yes, you can make me part of a worldwide television release on this. So it's amazing what can happen when you walk into these places. This is the monorail going into the Geary Museum of Music, and there are extraordinary places like this in America now, and you can do amazing things like creating your own record, and this is the new group called Seattle Down Under, which performed for a very brief time. Seattle has talked a lot about alternative transport and land use for a long time, and is just starting to do it. This is their first light rail, and it is working extremely well. It's the monorail up here. And it is a really nice central area now, but surrounded by hundreds of square kilometres of urban sprawl with no transit. And this is LA. So many American cities like this, really, but the interesting thing about LA is it's the densest city in America, and it's got a very dense city centre, which is now quite a viable place. But you can see the old tram lines. These are the tram lines where they took out and closed them down, and they've been trying to recover from that ever since. The G'day USA event was held in Century City. There's the Hollywood sign there, and we were looking down on this, and it was a nice little event with lots of politicians, and I'm glad they brought me over for it, paid the way. But the main event for me was working in with the city. the mayor of Los Angeles says we are now going to create Los Angeles as the greenest big city in America. Very hard to imagine this sort of thing, isn't it? But they do have a strategy to do this 35% below 1990 by 2030. They are replacing their transit. This is even meant to look like the old trams they had, and it's doing a lot better. Their transit system is growing quite rapidly. 25 different NGOs helped to put on this event in City Hall, and the mayor helped to promote it as well. It was standing room only, and Tim and I were able to get together for that event. It was recorded and has now been taken to a retreat that the city commissioners had recently. So it's just an indication that they're ready to hear this message, and there was a lot of interest in it, and it wasn't just alternative people. We went for a little wander around LA. This is Sam's phrase. If you ever go to Venice Beach, it's like Freo on steroids. This guy here is he's on rollerblades. He's talking about electric transit. He's got an electric guitar which he's playing with a battery pack as he goes up and down on his rollerblades. There are incredibly wealthy parts of LA, of course. This is Rodeo Drive, and all the best in urbanity. But we stayed in the LA Eco Village. Lois Arkin is a real hero. She's got together a group there that's been working away. It's restored a whole area, and she basically put on that event for us. And we were able to use the metro system, which is now quite well developed, and the central part of LA is really amazing now. It's sprung up in the last 15 years or so. And they have a Geary museum. This is the Disney Centre, which is huge. Denver was had to be on our journey because they have a plan for the whole city, which is to build all of these rail lines. It's a $7 billion project, and it's taken them 20 years. Every few years I used to go back and talk about it, and it's built up progressively from a vision from a few groups to the Chamber of Commerce running it and now being funded. They voted in their tax to do it, and it's being built. And at each point along that transit line there is a TOD being built. So they are reshaping their whole city. When we got out of the plane, the first thing we saw was acres and acres of photovoltaics at the airport. Jan went for a walk down the mall, the electric bus mall. Then we went to, and did a presentation with what's called Dr. Cog, Denver Regional Council of Governments. It's one of the few regional governments in America. This is one of their big problems. We just assume regional government, that local governments don't decide everything. In our country, we do have a regional plan, and it's meant to fit what local governments decide has to fit into that regional plan. They don't do that in the US. Each local government is an authority to itself. It was set up by Jefferson that way to try and balance power, but it has meant that he could never have imagined the size of the cities that have grown and which encompass all of these different local governments. So Chicago, for example, got 250 local governments. They don't have any regional process to bring that together. Denver has. They've got this Denver Regional Council of Governments, and it has the plan, and it is now working on it. So it is a transformative plan, and a lot of it has come from Boulder, from Spence Havlick and the crew at the University of Colorado at Boulder. And it is a green city innovator. This is where the first smart grid will be. And it is a city that's benefited from that green perspective. Sam went up to Eldora, up in the mountains for that weekend, so we were fortunate to have another skiing time. Then we took off across the country, and that actually is looking down on the patchwork of the Midwest as you fly across. You see these that's a town there and a town there, and these are the roads all completely under snow. The whole country was under snow when we first got there.